Welcome to the Family Business Audiocast on LinkedIn. I am R. Adam Smith, creator of this audiocast series. As an entrepreneur, investor, founder, investment banker, and board leader the last 25 years, I'm fortunate for my many experiences within the family firm industry. A warm thank you to our live audience on LinkedIn today and for those listening in the future. A brief comment on why I created this broadcast. Private companies are a passion of mine, having grown up in a family of entrepreneurs and having engaged for 2 decades in deals, strategic transformations, investments, and boards with an array of fascinating family enterprises, family firms, and family offices. I founded this series to offer a useful platform for listeners to hear from veterans, academics, and leaders in the vast family firm ecosystem. Whether you're a family business owner, building, running, or advising a family office, or just expanding your family office activities, I hope these conversations are useful and enlightening. And now it's time to turn our attention to our accomplished guests on today's episode. This is Artem Smith, creator of the Family Business Audiocast. I'm pleased to be here today with Emily Balentine Barbour, who is partner and head of client engagement and family legacy at Balentine, a leading Atlanta-based wealth management firm. It's great to have you today, Emily.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So I'll talk a bit about you and then we'll jump right in. Emily, as I said, is a partner and head of client engagement at the firm. She oversees the client experience at Balentine, is very passionate about helping families navigate many complexities of wealth and values and long-term legacy, a core theme in this podcast. She has been with Balentine since 2010, just right after the firm's founding, and has served in many roles, of course, over the years, leading up into her current leadership position. This gives her firsthand insight into many of the clients' needs and their family governance situations and the operational challenges of wealth management itself. She has been instrumental in shaping the firm's white glove, goals-based approach and ensuring the clients not only protect and grow their wealth, but also align it with their personal and family values. Emily's experience spans working directly with entrepreneurs, also multi-generational families and legacy planning. This makes her very uniquely positioned to discuss both the human and financial sides of family wealth. I'm very delighted to have you here today. Are you ready to jump in?
I'm ready.
So let's talk a bit about the firm. It is, of course, one of the leading privately held wealth management firms in the country, providing peace of mind and performance to hundreds of entrepreneurs and families. Can you talk a bit about the firm and some of its accolades and what makes it unique?
Sure. We are an RIA based in Atlanta, Georgia. And for a little bit of background, I'm the third generation working at the firm. My father and grandfather originally started what was called Balentine and Company back in the late 80s. And we're really on the forefront of kind of a investment fee-only advice. And after growing it, they sold the firm to Wilmington Trust of Delaware. And then kind of during the financial crisis, my grandfather had passed at the time. My father and some partners decided that they really did not want to be part of the big bank and wanted to be independent again and swore to always be independent. That was in 2010 when I joined the firm. They relaunched as an RIA. We have about $8.5 billion under advisement at the firm, and we also have an office in Raleigh. And as you said, we cater mainly towards families and entrepreneurs, and it's just been very exciting last 16 years. We're in an exciting phase of growth.
That's amazing. I can see that. Also, the firm has been named to many awards and accolades in the industry, which is wonderful. The firm has been named, for example, a top 50 fastest growing RIAs, best place to work, Atlanta's best places to work, premier advisor, very laudable. Obviously, I see the philosophy combines both financial management and going deeper into the soft power, legacy, human capital, and so on. Do you consider it to be a wealth management firm and or multifamily office and or OCIO organization? If you could just comment on that.
Primarily a wealth management firm, and we do work with some family offices, but wealth management.
Okay, great. You started way back in relationship management over 15 years ago, and it's really unique to not only be part of the development of a wealth management firm, but also be part of a family held firm. And of course, it was also transformed and brought back into the family circle, which is amazing. We'd love to talk, about that. So it's a pretty unique situation. Maybe just share a little bit about what it's like working in a family held firm and how that relates to your ability to appreciate the clients, the family offices and alternate worth and Quib, especially related to their family values and their larger family held companies.
My experience is unique in that I think a lot of people assume you work for a family business and things might be handed to you or you have a path carved out ahead of you. And I feel like, in a way, I've had the opposite of experience. I've used the term reverse nepotism before. When I joined the firm, and I interestingly did not have any background in finance and never taken an economics class, I was a psychology major. I remember saying to my dad, "Do you think that you maybe would hire me?" And they put me through a rigorous interview process. And I started as an administrative assistant and really have had a lot of roles in the firm. And it's been fun to see how, over the last 16 years, both my personal experience of being someone that's had to work and carve my own path, recently being made a partner, which was a very proud and emotional moment for me. I'm the only sibling, I'm one of three in my family to be involved in the business. My experience working alongside families, clients directly, has just really led me to this natural point. What's fun is, and you touched on this, we believe that the future of wealth management is family and legacy. This was a role that did not exist in our firm a year ago. In fact, I play kind of a dual role. I'm in charge of our client experience, and we'll talk a little bit about that and the philosophy there. And then I lead up our family and legacy efforts. So it's been really fun to see how my background has led me to this point. Also having that empathy in my own experience, being a rising gen in a family, but also walking alongside clients and having that experience helping them lead to this point.
Definitely. I love that. Obviously, the whole business is based on clients. So I think the art of advising is very complex and becoming more complex in this competitive world of wealth management and the family office ecosystem. Then the most successful wealth management firms build trust. Of course, they offer unique advice and products and alternative investments, but ultimately, I think that trust and brand is key. And it's, of course, with my background in M&A, it's very interesting to see the firm come back to its family roots. Maybe you could talk a bit about, I guess, the alignment of advice with client values and just talk about how the client relationship works. What are the core values and tenets and services to your clients?
One of the things that I say has been most fulfilling about getting to work in this business is getting to see my dad as a leader of a business in a very similar parallel to how he has led our family. The same values that he instilled in our family growing up are the same values that we instill at work and that we see in a lot of our clients. It starts with the employee experience. And my grandfather always said that if you ask your clients, they'll tell you how to run your business. And I think that having the employee experience and the client experience are so deeply intertwined, and knowing and recognizing our own value system before we do the work with families is so important. I don't know if you've heard the quote before from Roy Disney. It's, when you know your values, your decisions become clearer. And so we believe values are such an easy place to start with this work, and just having employees and clients recognize, what do I believe in, what's important to me, and then that kind of helps them as they navigate these decisions.
I love that. To be able to bring those values across more than one generation is hard, actually, and super unique within the organization. And you see that challenge within the movement to G2 and G3. You want to talk about next gen
Yeah.
for a bit and what is going on in the next gen out there within your clients, especially, let's say, the mid-sized family businesses. And in particular, we talk about a lot here on the podcast with some of the colleagues, Emily Bouchard, Elizabeth Bagger, James Gorman, and Christina Wing. We've talked about Richard Wolkowitz. We've talked about this over and over again. There's the hard power, soft power. There's also like the economic, commercial opportunity for the next gen, but then there's their personal passions that might be different than the family business itself.
I think engagement is really key. There's been such a focus on the leading generation and seeing through their eyes. We talk a lot about seeing the world through another generation's eyes, perspective from someone else. And I know that this is industry buzzword. Everybody's focused on the next generation, but it really is so important. I think having them be engaged, they've got to be willing to want to do the work. Because the parents can say, we want our children to be prepared, we want them to be educated, but they've got to be willing to lean in and do the work. And one of the areas where we've been most successful is we have created a Rising Gen cohort. That's been a little bit of a secret sauce just as a firm, is being able to create a client community where we bring clients together and we get to learn from them. It's not just, we're there to facilitate. Yes, we have the experience and the knowledge from other families and our own lived experience, but where we can put them together and they can learn from each other. I think that the Rising Gen really likes being able to connect with each other in a way where they say, I can't talk about this stuff with my friends, right?
You actually bring the next gen members of some of your clients together in a virtual way or a physical way, or how does that work?
It started as a in-person. We do a client retreat and it is multi-gen. And at the retreat, we would break out into smaller cohorts based on generation. And so there was kind of a natural connection that was formed in this intimate retreat over 2 days that we then gained momentum off of. It's really hard to just create virtually with a group of people that have never met before, that intimacy to be able to talk about those things. So that was kind of the starting point and have gone from there.
Great. That's super nice. So back to human capital, could you just talk about the development of, let's say, professionalization of the family office or the larger family businesses and what you're seeing out there in the hiring of external CEOs into the family business or onto the board of family offices or family-held companies? Obviously, you're focused on the creation of wealth, but also the continuity of wealth is highly related, as we talk about often, to the continuous development of their main company and the excellence and capabilities of their main company that tends to hold most of their wealth. So I'm just interested in hearing what you're seeing. Do you guide your clients? Do you observe like what's happening in the institutionalization or scaling of some of the bigger family businesses?
It's really tricky. We talk a lot about the business of the family and the family business and, how do you separate those at all if you can? And I think about one family that we work with, and it's been interesting because in a positive way, there's been no successor within the family. This is at the cousin level now, outside of board seats. And I think that they almost prefer that there's no internal family member that's going to be taking over, that it just puts everybody on a level footing. But we do a lot of advising clients with that because it is tricky. You have to take into account what's best for the business, not just what's best for the family and how everyone feels. There's a great book. Have you read Hug of War by Kathy Carroll?
I've heard of that. Actually, I did not read
It's
it.
really good, but it talks a lot about that family succession and how to navigate all of that.
Okay, good. So let's come back to the wealth management itself, maybe a bit on the firm. Like, how is your firm structured? Who is doing what? How large is it? What are the functionalities within the firm?
Sure. We have about 65 employees, and it is a very team-based company. The compensation structure has been intentional in that to create this kind of team-like atmosphere, which also helps with transitioning clients that it's not that I have a guy, it's I have a team, and we want them to be clients at the firm, not of the person. We have our investment team that is separate from our relationship management team. And our relationship management team, their primary focus is to, of course, take care of clients, but keep apprised from the investment team. And I think I already mentioned that we have an office in Raleigh and in Atlanta. And from a servicing perspective, we have two levels of clients. We have our wealth management level clients, and then we have our kind of multi-family office level clients. Part of my role in my putting on my client experience hat that I have tried to do is I always say we want to have a consistent yet standardized experience, which helps allow us to scale, right? Everybody can't be so one-off and customized, but we don't want to be so cookie cutter. So we have the same pillar offerings across the firm, and those are really core to our family and legacy, our business advisory, our private capital, our investments, and then our wealth management. And depending on kind of what tier you are, you're still getting the same pillars, but you may be getting it in a different way. So one of the things that I am proud of that we've done around this family and legacy pillar is what started as a kind of bespoke offering that we were going to serve up to our kind of top level clients. We realized, you know what, everybody can benefit from this work. I partnered with, I'm biased, but I think he's one of the best in the business, Mitchell Spearman, family and legacy advisor. He came in to help us not only with helping clients directly, but also training our internal teams to do the work themselves. So we kind of have made it recognizing he can't be front and center with every single client, where we've been training our internal staff to be able to have these conversations and lead these family meetings themselves so that everybody gets some level of it. And so we're doing that kind of across all of our pillars.
That's nice. Yeah, I think I've heard of him. He's in
Yes.
Texas and the Carolinas, been
Yes.
around the space for a bit. Yeah, thank you for
Mm-hmm.
bringing him up. Okay, so let's move over to succession and the stewardship of that succession. I'm not sure where Balentine gets involved in the governance or creation or mentoring on the governance, but succession, especially when there's a transition of a major business sale or preparation of a sale or just moving the CEO to next gen, is a really big deal. We talked about human capital, talked about the governance, like the board of directors or board charter or external advisors, and just preparing for that succession planning at the business level. And that relates, of course, to the attention to multi-generational wealth with the children, or sometimes not the children. But if you could just talk about what you're seeing, what you advise on within that succession, and like what are some of the hot spots that you guys see over there?
Yeah, it's huge. And as I said, in working with a lot of entrepreneurs, we do a lot of work. So we have a business advisory service offering where we do exactly this with families, and we walk them through their governance and help them structure, what makes sense for everyone and who are the key parties that need to be involved. There's such an overlap. I never want to be as a firm where everything is so siloed and separate, because there's such an orchestra that needs to happen of when to bring in the family and legacy component with the business advisory. There is so much overlap there. And back to, it starts with values. We've got to understand, what do all of the stakeholders value? What's the goal there? It's not just putting the governance in place, but it's understanding the intentionality behind it.
And what about the expectations of next gen actually taking over the business versus wanting to just have a relaxing life? I don't really want to work that hard and just go about my thing as a millennial or Gen Z and just move on.
I'm making a generalization here, but I think there sometimes is a disconnect between the wealth creator and the next generation. And at one of our retreats, actually, a couple years ago, we had a client, the dad stood up and said, everybody in this room, we're all grinders. We grind. And the son stood up and he said, you know what, Dad? I don't want to be a grinder. I want to be able to go home and see my wife and my kids. And I'm so grateful that what you've built has allowed me to have that flexibility. But I think that there is somewhat a generational shift between that desire to, quote, grind and to be able to appreciate maybe this leg up that the wealth creator has given them to be able to have a little bit more balance and do what they want to do.
That also avoids all the psychological and family tension and the imposter syndrome and the ego, and just accept the children to respect their own decisions as a human.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think every parent is wired that way. And that's some of the work we do, is to help them see, again, that perspective, seeing the world through another's eyes, because it may not be what mom or dad desired.
Why don't we move into legacy? What are your thoughts on legacy? Let's talk about it from, let's say, the family office perspective. We look at legacy as the core of this podcast, and the definition of legacy being very personal and specific and respecting the differences of opinions and the definition of legacy. So first, from the family office perspective as the client, how do you think the family offices are typically defining legacy? And then I'm curious about like your own company as well. It's very different than an operating company. What are you seeing externally at the client level, defining legacy, and then how do you reflect on that for your company?
My dad always says, I know a lot of people with a lot of money that don't have a legacy, and a lot of people without money who had a big legacy, like Mother Teresa and Martin Luther King. So it's interesting, this idea of legacy, because we are talking about it in terms of wealth, but also it applies to everyone. And I think it's unique to each individual. Again, you can't have a cookie cutter experience for everybody. You kind of have to meet the client where they are. We've got a client right now working on a memoir, and I think it's the greatest experience of his life. He's having so much fun doing it. We're helping another family right now with creating legacy through a 3-generation foundation where we're engaging the 3rd generation and helping them put governance and structure into it. It's having these pathways to kind of present a menu of offerings of here's some different options. But we've got another client who bought a bunch of property in Texas, is trying to build out a dream vision of what they want it to look like and what do they want it to look like now while they're alive. And then when they're gone, what does it look like? It's all very exciting, but it's personal.
Yeah. And it's getting bigger of an issue as well as the next gen community gets bigger, as wealth is moving down right now in this great transfer of wealth. But the wealth is, I think, overestimated transitioning to the children. I think it's a bigger issue that's uncovered, which I cover and focus on from a reality perspective in terms of M&A, is there's a lot of wealth that will be created and transitioned out of the family in the sale of their companies. I'm interested where looking at the whole family ecosystem, looking at multi-generational wealth. I think it's interesting to look at where that wealth is going to go once it hits the bank accounts of the family and the children. What are you seeing in that regard? What do you recommend? What do you see? Where do you see the children working and going if they're not going to work for the core family business? What are they doing out there?
It's interesting. Back to philanthropy, I think that's a big part of it. We work with a lot of clients who they may think it's not a big number now and it's not a big issue, but sure is easier to plan these things when you only have 2 generations or the balance sheet is smaller than when it multiplies. And so philanthropy is a big one. I think a lot of people have the structures in place. They have the trust, they have the foundation set up, but they don't know how to engage with it. They don't know how to use it. So I think people are going to be looking to move money philanthropically. The private space is a big one. We've talked about some sort of educational programming for the next generation where they can learn more about how to pick and choose investments, on their own. Because I think they're getting approached by friends to look at deals and maybe they want to start their own ventures as well.
Got it. I agree. I think venture capital, philanthropy, startups, and also passion projects like art, for example, are very relevant. So we got about 10 minutes left. Maybe we look at trends and what's evolving for wealth management clients. There's such a significant focus on technology, using technology, cybersecurity, and of course, the utilization of technology within the operating companies. Super important to support family offices and their bigger businesses in giving them those resources, encouraging them to use technology so they can stay ahead. Not just cybersecurity, but like actually leveraging technology tools, AI, cybersecurity, CRM, different systems. What type of clients do you all cover? And do you cover technology companies? What do you think is going on in technology at the operating level?
AI is so big right now. I think one of the best internal decisions that we made a few years ago was hiring a tech guy who he has the freedom to just build and create, and he's creating agents. And I know within our own business, it's just transformed. But in talking to clients, I think there's just a lot of focus, I should say maybe fear about what does the workforce look like? Do we...
Yeah. What's my utility as a professional going 5 years out, 10 years out? Am I going to stay on top of the pack, or should I maybe just sell the company or get out now because it's changing so quickly?
Yeah, changing so quickly. And just even in forecasting hiring needs, are we going to need to have less people? Will the technology truly replace that or not? I think there's a lot of uncertainty there, but I think there's a lot of efficiencies that have come along with AI.
What are you guys doing as a firm with AI?
Note-taking has been huge. I feel like if you've met one advisor, you've met them all. They don't like to have to take notes and put them into the system. And that's just one of those compliance requirements. I've been surprised how little pushback there has been from clients. I think it's been a natural evolution and people seem to understand, and it helps us to be better and smarter. Back to the customization, we're not having to do that. We're able to say, we're going to go through 15 years of meeting notes, and we're going to be able to summarize not just who our clients are, but like across the client base, What are the trends we're seeing? What are the questions clients have been asking over the last quarter, which help us to create marketing content? What are the kinds of events we should be looking at based on interest? So it's helped a lot with productivity there. I use it all the time just in my creating from HR job descriptions and reviews and all of that. But from the client side, it really is helping us more with analytics around who our clients are, what do they want. We've created relationship roadmaps, which help us look at historical data and say, okay, what should we be focused on in the next 2 years without having to do it manually? All of it was done manually in the past. And so it's just freeing up bandwidth to focus on more thoughtful ways to engage our clients.
Nice. Our last topic, we can cover, more long-term thinking. There is obviously value in long-term thinking in capital creation, wealth creation, capital creation. That's tax efficient, but also the longer-term thinking for the client as a business model. What is the lifetime value of the customer for the firm? And what is the long-term relationship with that client across the generations? And the ability to retain that client in this industry is hard because it's super competitive. There's lots of competitors out there that want your clients. So maybe just talk about that longer term thinking, and then we can wrap up and talk about the uniqueness of the firm in its ability to serve the client, in fact, longer term.
You're not wrong. They do want the clients and they want the employees too. In this world we're living in where there's so much private equity that's gobbling up all the RIAs, it's really a different world we're living in right now, trying to attract both talent and employees.
It's a complex question because the long-term perspective of the client is directly at odds with maximizing the fees, maximizing the transactions, selling product, focusing too much on G1, not focusing on G2, lowering the fees, looking at, okay, it's not just an SMA like fee transaction, it's actually, we're going to provide custom services, we're going to introduce you to alternative investment firms, we're going to bring you coaching and human capital, MFO type services, not just an asset management product. And this, in fact, is the evolution.
Yeah. So I think back to the buzzword of next generation, it is very important to be engaging that next generation. I also would highlight the spouse. I think that's an underestimated retention tool that in the world we live in, I think people underestimate sometimes who the decision maker is. And it oftentimes is the woman. Actually, I think we have more women than men in our firm, but it's important sometimes to put a female in a meeting to help that and read the room and read the cues and how they're feeling. But yes, trying to engage the next generation. It's actually an opportunity also for us to engage our next generation internally of advisors. We're sensitive to the fact sometimes the children don't necessarily want to have the same advisor that mom and dad do. And so it creates a great opportunity for our kind of younger, newer teams to come in and educate and form those relationships. So that's a good one. The service offerings also have to evolve. As I said, I feel like the industry went from investment management to being a commodity to financial planning to now the next big thing is this family and legacy planning, which I think is here to stay. It is truly I will call it relationship superglue. Clients are happy for us to continue and expect, I think, to continue to grow the money. But if we can help their children or we can help their family, that's what will make a long-lasting client.
Right. Which is taking into account a more selfless and longer term and caring approach to the client that is not related to the transactional nature of asset management and product. How do we add value to you as a client? And that does take some time and margin away from the client, but in a sense, I think that incremental work that wealth management firms do and multifamily offices do as an organization of kin is increasingly important. And we're seeing it happen in the industry, which is great because it is what the clients need. And it is harder, of course, to make that decision, I think, at the corporate level because it's not as profitable. But as the tides rise and it gets more competitive, those additional services are necessary to maintain the client. So if those additional services are not provided, right, the soft touch, then you'll have more turnover theoretically.
Right. And again, not to ding the private equity backed companies, there is a advantage of not being so beholden to the investor and to trying to squeeze it out and being able to be thoughtful about it. But I do think that we have to be thoughtful, what I was saying earlier about kind of our trainee model of we've got to figure out how to make it scalable and profitable, but offering up these services to everybody and not saying only these clients get this service. It will also be interesting to see how the industry evolves and what keeps clients long term. Does having a kind of key turn offering appeal to clients versus we've always had the approach of we want to focus on these areas and we're going to, work with whichever CPA or attorney. We want to advise you with the best and we'll work collaboratively and be the quarterback. But I'm seeing more firms try to build in that offering or partner up with other firms. It'll be interesting to see if that long-term trend sticks.
I got that. What are the one or two areas you think will be making their way into the wealth management industry, like permanently going forward? Like what's going to be happening coming into the industry?
I continue to hear a demand for more education, and I don't know who has best solved it. I've talked to some different folks. It takes a lot of time and effort to either build your own training program or not. And it goes back to that readiness and engagement needed from the next generation. But I do think education is a big one. I've already said it, but I'm waving the family legacy crowd. From what I can tell, it feels like a lot of firms are, from a marketing standpoint, we've got it. Or maybe they have a person that does it, but I don't know that it's really woven into the DNA. And that's where I feel like we are differentiating ourselves. It's not a separate service offering, but it's part of every client conversation.
Great. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Emily, for today. I want to thank you for joining the Family Business Audiocast and also to our audience today. It's really wonderful to have you as a distinguished guest. Thank you so much for coming today, Emily.
Thank you for having me.
It was great. Today we covered the critical link between wealth and legacy as we were talking, and also thoughtful client engagement. It's great to see your work aligning people values, financial strategy, and focusing on the multi-generational impact. And we talked about the longer term relationship with the client. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. Congratulations to you and your family for the continuity of the firm. It's wonderful, and I look forward to working with you and talking more about it with you in the future. This is R. Adam Smith signing off. Please stay tuned for the next episode of the Family Business Audiocast.